A lot of what we talk about in proposal management deals with the challenges we face with regards to request for proposal requirements and getting our company's proposal response to be compliant and compelling, and most importantly, submitted on time. One of the wild cards in this process can be teaming. I worked for one of the largest government contracting firms, and we teamed a lot, particularly to meet small business requirements on the task orders under the various GWACs and IDIQs we held. However, in most cases, being a big, bad, large firm, we tended not to do much more than put the other companies' logos on our bid, and of course, have them submit whatever was required for pricing to ensure overall compliance. However, after that large company, I worked for a bunch of mid-tiers. Those companies almost always partner, sometimes with large companies, sometimes with small businesses, because they may or may not be able to do everything the RFP requires, or they may need another past performance or something like that. Here are some thoughts about teaming. Teaming is not capture. At least a couple of the companies didn't really have capture managers. They had account managers or account leads, whose job it was to fill the business development funnel with new opportunities. When an RFP came out, those account managers or leads moved to find partners to fill any holes in our solution. And more often than I would have liked, that was the extent of capture that was done for the bid, finding the right partners. While ensuring that the proposed solution will address all of the RFP's requirements is key to a successful bid, there's so much more to capture than that. Teaming carries risks. We were told more than once and by more than one company that they had the quote inside track. One company told us that they were the only company that knew what the government wanted, that they had met with the customer, and that the requirements were so difficult to meet that few companies would even bid. So imagine our surprise when questions showed that at least half a dozen companies were planning to bid. We lost that bid, and when we looked up the FPDS report on it, 13 submissions had been made. At one of these mid-tiers, one of the large company partners stonewalled us on providing the past performance we needed, which was in fact 90% of why we had partnered with them. It turned out the original contracting officer had left that contract, and they didn't know where that CEO was to be able to answer the required questions from the evaluation board. Nor did they know who the CEO was on the current contract, which had been won by somebody else. We lost that proposal because the evaluation board couldn't get a hold of their CO as was required by the RFP. At another company, we formed a joint venture, or JV, specifically because the contract, which we had won as a small business, was going to stay small business. Our JV, we hoped, would be the ideal offer for the customer, with a JV that met their small business requirements, a mid-tier they knew could do the work, and small business for new blood and new ideas. The JV was successful, but the relationship with the small business was so toxic that the customer issued several warnings about problems with staffing and the potential for the contract to be ended for default. And the JV ended up being dissolved before the 5-year period of performance ended because of it. Partnering also requires more complicated proposal development. If you partner with a company because they, quote, have the inside track, then more than likely you're going to want to include them in all phases and aspects of the proposal development. That may mean 2 kickoffs, one internal only and one with that partner and maybe others as well. And that may mean at least 2 daily stand-ups, one internal only and one with the partners. And you may end up having to do 3 if you need to do a stand-up to deal with pricing or contractual issues. One of the biggest complaints about proposal development is meetings, meetings, meetings. Your company's team will have to be in on all of those meetings, or you'll end up playing telephone with the information, which is not a good thing for anyone. Also, you may need that partner to write sections of the proposal, particularly if they brought the opportunity to you and theoretically know more about what the solution needs to look like. Having another company write your technical approach carries a tremendous amount of risk. You shouldn't take their word for whether the solution will work, but you also may not have the expertise in-house to know better. Even if they are only providing some content, or perhaps only a past performance, see the previous section about that, or resumes, you are beholden to them to meet the deadlines for the proposal schedule. And depending on how much leverage they think they have over you, they may or may not cooperate. They also may not be good at writing those sections, or they may not be good at tailoring past performance and resumes. And so you may have to assign additional resources to work with them on those elements when your folks could be doing other things. And the pricing that follows the development of the solution is inherently a risk as well, as they may try to tell you what staff you need or what the timeline for the solution should be. If they brought you the deal, they may want favorable pricing, e.g., higher rates, and that may impede your ability to win, or it may create complications if you have other partners from a contractual perspective. Teaming can be a winning proposition. I've certainly seen situations where the proposal wouldn't have won if not for the partners. I've certainly been part of proposal teams where the other company really did know something unique to the bid, which helped us win. And I've worked on proposals where the content from the partner was stellar. So don't get me wrong, I'm not saying teaming isn't the right thing to do. I'm just saying you need to think it through and be realistic about what it's going to mean to the proposal development process.